Hey guys, I wanted to review a couple things with you before we start talking about Punnett Squares. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about what we learned that week before spring break, which starts with alleles. So we said that alleles are different forms or flavors or versions of a gene. So we talked about the orange and blue-tailed critters. We said that of the tail gene, the color gene, it came in two different versions. It was either blue or orange. If we talk about the eye color gene, it comes in lots of different versions, right? Brown, hazel, blue, green, etc. We also said that alleles come in two varieties, right? They can either be dominant or recessive. Remember, if they're dominant and we use uppercase letters for those, that means if that allele is there, it will show up. We'll learn today that's called a phenotype. We physically see it in their appearance. Recessive means that the allele is hidden, and if the dominant is there, the dominant covers it up. We also learned that we get two alleles for each gene. So we have two letters when we talk about a particular gene. This is all about Mendel's genetics, right? We get one allele from each parent. So if we look over here, here's kind of an example of how this works. So remember, you get half of your genetic information from your dad, and you get half of your genetic information from your mom, right? If we were to zoom in on the chromosomes that you get from each parent, we would see that genes and the alleles that make them up are located on chromosomes. And remember, we said we get one allele from each parent, so here's kind of how it works. So let's say that we are talking about the dimples gene, and let's say this is one of your chromosomes, right? So let's say that your dad has dimples and your mom does not. Now, because you get information from both of your parents, one thing I'll tell you is that dimples is dominant over not having dimples. So dad is going to have, he's going to give you a dominant allele for the dimples gene. And mom is going to give you a recessive allele for the dimples gene. Now remember, mom and dad, they have two chromosomes of their own, kind of like you do. And so we don't know what dad's other allele was. We know mom's other allele that she has on her chromosome would have also been a lowercase letter. It would also be recessive if she did not have dimples. So what that means is mom and dad are each going to give you one of their alleles. So if you take your alleles and put them together, that means you have one of each. You have one dominant and you have one recessive. And if we know that the dimple gene is dominant, when you have one of each, you have a dimple allele and a non-dimpled allele. We know that the dominant one is going to show. So as a phenotype, you would end up having dimples as a result of that. So this is just kind of like an overview. One other thing when we do problems today, we're only going to have one letter for each gene that we choose. So I don't want to say I'm going to use an A for having dimples and then a B for not having dimples. You can pick whatever letter you want. Try to stay away from letters that look the same, upper and lowercase. But whatever letter you want to choose and then go with it from there. So this would be your genotype. Your genotype, and this would be your phenotype. So this is what your genes look like, your alleles, and this is what you would look like physically from there. So we're going to do some practice problems with what this means, but keep in mind, if you are going to go on and have offspring of your own, you have these two chromosomes, right? And we don't know which of these chromosomes you're going to pass on to your kids, right? It's a 50-50 chance. So these are either going to turn into egg or sperm cells, depending if you're female or male. And it's going to be a 50-50 chance about whether you pass on this allele or this allele. Punnett squares just make it easier for us to see what the probabilities are of what your offspring would look like from there.